4:42 hours, Baltic Sea airspace. The sky over the Baltic Sea was still dark. Only faint sunrise reflected across cold water thousands of feet below. High above international airspace, a U.S. reconnaissance aircraft moved steadily along its assigned surveillance corridor. Call sign, Sentinel-41. Mission type, signals intelligence collection. Routine, predictable, legal, but never safe. 4:44 hours. Inside, Sentinel-41. Inside the aircraft, intelligence operators monitored electronic emissions spreading across Eastern Europe, radar pulses, naval communications, air defense frequencies. Every signal recorded, every movement mapped. The aircraft maintained altitude at 31,000 feet. No deviation, no aggression, just observation, until one console flashed yellow. 4:45 hours. Fast movers detected. A sensor operator leaned forward. New contacts. Northeast vector. Speed. Mach 1.3 and accelerating. Altitude climbing fast. Origin. Russian mainland airbase. The mission commander didn't look surprised. Intercepts happened often, but something felt different. The approach speed was unusually aggressive. 4:47 hours. Russian scramble. Hundreds of miles away. Two Russian fighters tore into the sky. Su-35 Flanker E multi-role fighters. Afterburners blazing. Orders were brief. Intercept, identify. Force departure, demonstrate control. 4:49 hours. Closing distance, back aboard Sentinel-41. Radar track stabilized. Two aircraft, closing rapidly. 40 miles, 30, 25. No radio contact, no identification broadcast. That silence raised tension instantly. Professional intercepts normally involved communication. This one didn't. 04:51 hours. First visual contact. The co-pilot spotted movement off the left wing. A dark shape emerged through thin cloud. Then another. Russian fighters slid into formation, dangerously close, less than 200 feet away, close enough to read markings, close enough to intimidate. 4:52 hours. Aggressive maneuver. 1 Su-35 accelerated forward. It crossed directly in front of the reconnaissance plane's nose. Jet wash slammed Sentinel-41. The aircraft shuddered violently. Equipment rattled. Operators grabbed consoles to steady themselves. The message was unmistakable. Leave, now. 04:53 hours. Radio silence. The American crew attempted contact. Russian aircraft. This is United States military aircraft operating in international airspace. No response. The fighters continued maneuvering, circling, testing reactions, watching. 04:55 hours. Situation escalates. Suddenly, one Russian jet climbed sharply above Sentinel-41, then rolled inverted, descending directly across its flight path. Too close, far too close. Inside the cabin, tension turned into alarm. This was no longer standard interception. 4:56 hours. Weapons indicators. Electronic warning receivers flickered briefly. Not missile lock, but weapon systems activation nearby. The mission commander's voice hardened. Track their hardpoints. Sensors confirmed. External cannon system armed. 04:57 hours. The moment. The lead Russian fighter pulled ahead, positioned slightly off the nose. Then, a flash. Bright, sudden. Tracers ripped through the air ahead of Sentinel-41. Warning shots. Live cannon fire. Across the flight path. 4:58 hours. Shock inside the aircraft. The cockpit erupted. They fired. No impact. No direct targeting, but unmistakable intent. A warning backed by lethal capability. The reconnaissance aircraft immediately adjusted course slightly to maintain safety separation, but the fighters stayed close. Still aggressive. Still armed. 0500 hours. Emergency transmission Sentinel-41 transmitted priority signal to NATO command. Russian fighter discharged weapons near U.S. aircraft. Repeat, warning shots fired. Across regional command centers, alarms activated. This crossed a dangerous line because firing weapons, even warning shots, changed everything. 0502 hours, unknown development. Just as Sentinel-41 stabilized, radar detected new contacts, high altitude, extreme speed, approaching from the west, unidentified, and closing fast. The Russian pilots noticed too. Formation shifted instantly. Something new had entered the airspace, something neither side expected. Cliffhanger. At 5:03 hours, the sky above the Baltic Sea was no longer controlled by two Russian fighters and one surveillance aircraft. Now, someone else was arriving, fast, silent, and armed. 0503 hours, new contacts. Inside Sentinel-41, radar operators stared at the screen. Two new tracks appeared: high altitude, extreme velocity, approaching from the west at nearly Mach 2. No civilian transponder, no broadcast identification. The mission commander spoke quietly. Those aren't commercial. Seconds later, NATO command confirmed. Friendly fighters inbound. 0504 hours. America responds. Hundreds of miles away, NATO Quick Reaction Alert fighters had launched minutes earlier. Now they arrived. Two US F-35 stealth fighters descended from high altitude like shadows falling from space. Call signs: Guardian 1, Guardian 2. They had been tracking the situation silently since the warning shots were fired, and unlike Sentinel-41, they came armed. 0505 hours, Russians lose the advantage. The Russian Su-35 pilots suddenly received threat alerts, unknown radar reflections, intermittent tracking spikes. Their sensors struggled. The F-35s were already inside engagement range before detection became reliable. One Russian pilot transmitted urgently: additional aircraft present, formation tightened immediately. The encounter had changed. 506 hours, silent positioning. Guardian 1 slipped beneath the Russian fighter's altitude. Guardian 2 climbed above. Classic containment maneuver, without aggressive movement, without weapon release, but tactically dominant. Sentinel-41 now flew at the center of a rapidly forming aerial standoff. 0507 hours, first warning. A calm American voice broke radio silence. Russian aircraft, you are conducting unsafe operations near United States aircraft in international airspace. Pause. Then, disengage immediately. For several seconds, nothing. Only engine noise and wind across the fuselage. 0508 hours. Radar locks. Shift. Electronic warning tones sounded inside the Russian fighters. Not missile launch, but targeting awareness. The F-35s had achieved firing solutions. Without illuminating radar, without obvious signals, the Russians understood instantly. They were now the ones being watched. 509 hours. Dangerous decision. Point 1. Su-35 pilot banked sharply, testing reaction. Guardian 2 mirrored the maneuver perfectly. Distance maintained, angle controlled, every move matched, every escape vector covered. The message required no translation. Any escalation would fail. 510 hours. NATO eyes everywhere. A wax aircraft hundreds of miles away monitored every second. Ground stations across Europe tracked flight paths live. Diplomatic channels activated simultaneously, because now 4 advanced fighters from rival nuclear powers shared the same sky within visual range. Weapons armed, adrenaline high. 0511 hours. The turning moment. The Russian lead pilot hesitated. He had already fired warning shots. Another aggressive act could trigger engagement authorization. Fuel calculations appeared on his display. Mission risk rising. Political consequences unknown. Finally, he rolled away from Sentinel-41. 0512 hours. Disengagement. Both Russian fighters accelerated eastward, afterburners igniting bright orange against the morning sky. Distance opened rapidly. Guardian 1 maintained escort position until separation exceeded safe limits. No pursuit, no retaliation, just control. 0514 hours. Escort home. The F-35s moved into protective formation around Sentinel-41. Silent Guardians. The reconnaissance aircraft resumed its assigned route briefly before receiving updated orders. Return to base. Mission terminated. 0520 hours. Aftermath begins. Across military headquarters, incident reports compiled rapidly. Checkmark unsafe interception, checkmark live weapons discharge, checkmark NATO defensive response, no aircraft damaged, no missiles fired. But precedent changed, because warning shots in international airspace represented escalation few commanders ignored. Strategic impact. Within hours, fighter patrols increased across the Baltic region. Air defense readiness elevated diplomatic protests. Exchanged public statements remained cautious, but military planners understood the truth. The margin for error had become dangerously thin. Final reflection. A single burst of cannon fire nearly transformed an aerial intercept into international crisis. No missiles launched, no aircraft lost, yet the encounter proved something critical. Modern air confrontations no longer unfold slowly. They escalate in seconds, and survival depends not only on firepower, but restraint. Final line. Over the Baltic Sea that morning, no one pulled the trigger twice, but everyone involved understood. Next time, the outcome might not end with aircraft flying home,